Let's have a look now at how Conor Henry won that race.
In last year's milk race, for the first 8 days, there was absolutely no indication that the win would come for the first time from Ireland. Conor Henry was lying over 4 minutes back in the field, and the race was being dominated by the riders in the Belgian Koolstrop team. This was the finish at Aberystwyth, where Willy Intven was winning the stage for the Koolstrop team. But it wasn't Intven, but his teammate Willy Willems, who was the overall leader. This, though, was all about to change. The 120 miles, 8 stage, taking the riders across the Pennines, away from Blackpool and into Darlington, caused an attack from a strange quarter. Ian Chivers of Ireland, too far behind overall to win the milk race, was alone in the lead, and he would soon be joined by a group of riders which would include his teammate Conor Henry. Paul Leach had come up to the front from New Zealand, and so too had Neil Hoban from the Banana team on the right. Hoban was a dangerous rider and could win the milk race. He was willing to work in the front group. As the group went through Hawes, the main field were now over 5 minutes behind, and that meant that Conor Henry was the leader of the milk race on the road. He'd started the day 4 minutes and 32 seconds behind the race lead. He was now working very hard indeed to conserve even only a few seconds. He would lead the milk race for at least a day. No Irish rider had ever won the milk race before, and Conor Henry now was driving for a piece of history. Darlington couldn't come quick enough. This breakaway group, though, was losing ground. The one-time lead, which had been 6 minutes, was dwindling away. It was now less than 5. Henry's dream, it seemed, was in trouble. But when the riders swung into the finish in Darlington, the group had conserved virtually all of that 5-minute lead, and Henry wasn't sprinting for the stage win. That honour was going to Gunnar Schmidt of the CIS team. But Henry was now the race leader by just 12 seconds. In fact, despite the pressure put on him by the professional teams in the race over the next 3 days, he was to increase his lead to 19 seconds. So on the final stage from Lincoln, a circuit race, he was now in sight of his greatest victory.
Hopefully I'm 50 miles away from it. Anything can happen though still. I think it's still very close at the top.
So just that 50 miles, a circuit race around the city of Lincoln with one climb every lap. It was a tough proposition. The riders were nervous because Henry knew all of his work over the last 1,100 miles would come to naught in the next couple of hours. There was a marvellous crowd in hot, warm and sunny conditions, and the attacks came immediately. Brian Smith, the champion of Great Britain and riding for the immensely strong Banana team, were now turning the screws tighter. Henry was forced to counter every move. He was left alone. His teammates had proved their limit over the last 3 days of the race and could no longer help him. The Dutch riders too. Wim van der Meulenhof was also in with a big chance of a high finish. The yellow jersey at the front of the chase groups all of the time could not keep control of the head of the field. The Irish riders too, with their job done over the last 4 days, dropped away from the race to tail in at the back of the field. A leading group of 8 riders established itself soon after the start. They were led by Brian Smith, who still had an outside chance of winning this milk race. Smith is a climber from Scotland. He enjoyed the climb up to the finish every lap. Henry was in a difficult position. Every time he made a move, professional riders chased him down. Therefore, he was always a captive of the big field, and he was usually riding in the top 2 places because there was no one able to help him or willing in the milk race. In the lead group 2 on the right was Neil Hoban. He was now up to 4th place overall and in with a real chance of stealing the final yellow jersey. The Koolstrop team too, who had seemed like certain winners of this race ever since it started in Land's End and lost their grip only on that one day to Darlington, still felt they could win it on the final stage. Lap after lap on the climb, Conor Henry was always at or near the front of the big field. Yet there were always small groups or single attacking riders ahead of the race. One of the riders he feared most was Peter Verbeeken. The Koolstrops were playing their final card. They had led this race with Willy Willems until Henry had taken over the lead. Now they were using their man who was second best on the team to try and jump ahead of Conor Henry. Peter Verbeeken had started the day 2 minutes and 15 seconds behind Henry overall. He'd now made up all of that time and more. The small win bonus at the finish would give him the race winner's yellow jersey. Conor Henry was now totally on the defensive. As the riders came through to start the final lap in Lincoln, Henry's manager was shouting to him, "You are losing it, you are losing it." He didn't know what it meant. What it meant was that Peter Verbeeken had gained all the time he required now to win this milk race. But Conor Henry wasn't dead yet, and over those last few miles he was driving the field along. Peter Verbeeken won the stage and then had to wait while the clock told the story. This had been a desperate final stage by the Colstrop team to try and win the milk race, but had they done enough? The answer came a few seconds later when the main field arrived at the line, or at least a few of the main field. They split on the final climb to the line, but Conor Henry was safely in there with his yellow jersey. He'd won the milk race by just 19 seconds. Peter Verbeeken had climbed up to third place overall. He'd lost the milk race by just 24. Conor Henry, the 21-year-old from Belfast, fully deserved his victory in last year's milk race. He won it in the last 2 miles, and he saluted his crowd in Lincoln. Now he's going to try to attempt a back-to-back victory, and that's only been done once before, 33 years ago.
Life's just a breeze for Conor Henry, though he looks a most unlikely athlete. 10 stone wet through, but with a twinkle in his Irish eyes and an infectious sense of humour.
So how does it feel to be going into the milk race as defending champion?
I suppose it's a nervous prospect, but I don't know, as long as the weather's good, I'll have a good laugh, I suppose.
I suppose it's nice to be the champion, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose very, very rarely do we have a winner come back, actually, so, it's a good lot of prestige for me, that. I'll get a lot of publicity anyway.
But it's been an unconventional start to the defence for Henry. His bike flown over from Ireland was damaged on arrival. There was no one to meet him at the airport. We walked around for ages looking for a contact, but Henry's just concentrating on the race.
Sometimes if it's not too hard, you're enjoying the scenery or, looking at the women through some town or something, but, quite often you don't even think of the race at all. Like, you just switch off, you're daydreaming sort of in a mode as you're racing, especially a race like this for 2 weeks.
Conor Henry was a virtual unknown when he won the milk race last year. Now great things are expected of him. Belfast born, but living in Paris, he seems to be as worried about learning his new language as he is about the defence of his title.
And how's your French?
That's good now.
Go on, give us a flavour.
No way, man. Give us a flavour. Give us a flavour, Jesus. No, sure, my dad's a French teacher. He'd even killed himself laughing at the yard at that.